Welcome back to another No Limits 4x4 video. So this time we're going to be giving my old Jeep a bit of a once over and seeing how it fares after Jambo. A couple of good days of playing in Glasshouse Mountains, so let's see how she held up and what I need to fix, because there is a couple of things. Alright, so being such a big old truck that it is, I'm a bit wider than a patrol or a cruiser, and all those tracks are really made for those vehicles. So you can see a bit of rubbing on the flares. The front here, that was already like that. If you saw Travelling Oz's video when we went out checking tracks, this is when we actually did all this door damage. So we pushed this mirror completely into the door there, broke the door, so I had to replace the mirrors. Broke the mirrors again, so I'm up for another set of mirrors. Well, I need another mirror. The rock sliders are fitted up beforehand. I held up, worked a treat. I've got a few marks and scratches on them, but that's what they're there for, so really happy with how they are. Yeah, got a couple little repairs to do on the door. You can see rub the tray here, that handle, usual rubbing down the sides of this tray. Starting to wear through the Raptor, which that Raptor's been on there for about 5 or 6 years now, so it's held up well. We did get to use the rear winch, as you can see by the colour of the back of it. Gives you an idea of the canyon as we were doing that, because you can see the line there down across the guard to the back wheel. That's all underwater when you start climbing up from the hole in the bottom of the canyon. So yeah, that back winch is filthy. I've got to pull all the rope out now and wash it. Yeah. And this is where we start getting into the big damage. So bent this bar, hit that, so that was backing into a tree pretty heavily. The other part of that is I actually cracked the tray mount there and pulled the rivet clean out of that tray mount. So you can tell she took a pretty fair whack on the back of that tray and then push that tray into the cab. So all this corner here, I've got to fix this. So pretty well we have to pull the tray off it and then try and pull all the back of the cab back out, because it's closed the door gap up here, so that whole panel shifted forwards. And then really tested the sliders out on this side as well. The usual rubbing up here on the side rail. Yeah, so that's the big thing I need to fix. Also, and this is one of those things, really probably could have come out squarer with the front of the rock slider, because we missed the slider. So took a rock right there to the bottom of that flare, just pushed all the guard in here. I've bent that flare out a little bit again, but all that needs to really be pulled down. Try and pull this crease here out of the guard. And then when we were with the body all twisted up, opened the door and it caught there, and so it actually cracked the guard there. So the door caught the guard and peeled that open. And we did put a bit of pressure on this flare as well, so that flare took a bit of a hiding. So yeah, that's all that cosmetic damage. I'll go through add clips in here of what I have to show where it happened, but I don't think we got much of it on film. But today's major issue that I need to fix is in that front wheel. So in a second we'll pull this wheel off and I'll jack it up first and I'll show you what's going on there. So yeah, as you can see, there's a whole heap of play in that, and there's not supposed to be. And actually should have 4 bolts or 4 studs in it. It only has 2, and this new stud's actually moving as we. So it's actually pulled all the threads out of the bottom of this knuckle, which is a big issue. So you could helicoil it, put new studs in it, but I think that's a temporary fix, and being a major steering component, because pretty well you lose this, you lose the front wheel. Yeah, because that's your bottom kingpin bearing mount as well. So yeah, you could helicoil it. There probably is a thread repair for that to get you out of trouble, but in the long term you really want to replace that entire knuckle. This is not the first time this knuckle's come loose either. I did Loctite all those studs in there about 5 years ago as it came loose, and it's held together this long, so it's I think it's time to replace that entire steering knuckle. So one of the nice things about the way my Jeep's actually built, it is majority Landcruiser, well, it's all Landcruiser running gear and essentially Jeep aesthetics, just to give it that cool Jeep look. But yeah, it is a Landcruiser diff. So conveniently, and it was very convenient because the guy at Toyota actually told me someone returned this part the day before I was in there. Here's a pile of parts to replace it. So I went all out. I actually got all new nuts for them because I'm missing 2. Have a new axle seal to go in it while we're in there. Got all new studs. I got new cone washers and new flat washers. And the nice part, in the genuine Toyota box, have a brand new hub, a whole new knuckle. So yeah, that's going to fix it properly. We'll go through and swap everything off the old knuckle onto this knuckle, so your steering stops, top plate, reuse the bottom plate. All the wiper seals and everything in that swivel hub are not very old, so I'm happy to reuse all of those. But like I said, I will be throwing a new axle seal in it, which I have there. And the other thing, which I've been meaning to do for about 18 months, I actually have another axle for this side. When the front diff blew up a couple of years ago now, there was a video on the channel on that one when I rebuilt the front diff. We had to put a new crown wheel and pinion in it. I put a set of China spec CVs in it. They were just straight off eBay, what I could get at a decent price at the time. I think they were like 90 or 100 bucks each. They were cheap. I admit they were cheap. And it was just the outers, so I replaced them onto my original axles. And at a trip we did over to Coffs Harbour, I managed to destroy one of those. So I went and bought a pair of road safe front CVs with axles. So we'll actually swap. I've swapped the driver's side one out. I did that near 2 years ago now. I swapped it out not long after we did the diff. And at the time, the driver's side one, the long side, the passenger side one I got was wrong. But now I have the correct one, and I just never got around to putting it in. I also have a sneaking suspicion the actual axle is bent in that side, because for some reason it shakes this. You can see now it's shaking the studs out of it. It also shakes that freewheeling hub loose. Now that's a second freewheeling hub it's had on it, and all the bolts that hold the freewheeling hub onto the car actually come loose. So we'll get this all apart and we'll start swapping this hub over. To be honest, I think I'm going to grab the pressure washer and blow some of this crap off this thing, so I've got at least a clean place to work, and so I can get into these little Allen key bolts that are buried in this freewheeling hub. You're a special dog, aren't you? This is why we can't have sprinklers. We can actually see things. So yeah, now you can actually see there's an Allen key in here. Yeah, it's a good idea to get in and wash them out. It's a pretty easy way to strip them out. It's trying to undo them when they're full of mud. And we can see the rest of it pretty clearly now. So there's the steering stops that I've got to pull out, which you wouldn't be doing this if you're just doing a swivel hub, but see now I'm throwing this in the bin. I've got to pull those steering stops out on both sides. And get to the bolts that hold the caliper on. So don't get to the little bolts to do that. The wiper seals there on the back. Those two. What's left of the ones underneath. And that's obviously after we pull the freewheeling hub, wheel bearings. Get the rotor off, the spindle out, the axle out. So I'm going to hook into this and pull it all apart. Spare you the hour of me walking around looking for tools and pulling it to bits. It actually won't be because I should have all my tools right there. Being Toyota, and if you are going to do this on your own, this applies to a Landcruiser like 80 series, 105, 79s, 75s, 60 series to be honest. 60s have got a steel line here, is the only difference, and then steering arm bolts on the top. But yeah, if you're normally doing it, you pretty well need a 10, a 12, a 17, a 19, and on a normal Asia freewheeling hub you need a pair of circlip pliers to pull a circlip out in here. On this worn freewheeling hub there's a 13mm bolt. Well, you need a 13mm socket. It's an 8mm bolt. Just goes in through the middle there that holds the axle into the actual freewheeling hub. So yeah, I'll spare you pulling this apart and I'll bring you back when it's all apart. Right, so we've got everything taken off the hub just about. So this top cap back on. I've loosened everything that I need to loosen. I've loosened the steering stops and the little bung. So I'm supposed to fill that with grease. As you can see, it's chopped the axle seal out. So it's a good thing we've got a new one of those. And I'm going to leave the tire ends and everything attached. It just seems to be, it's my favourite way of doing it. So should just be as simple as undoing those two bolts there up the top, just like that. And he will come out of that top bearing. Normally I just leave the shims alone. I'm going to have to actually re-shim this because it's a whole new housing. But yeah, we'll get this top bearing cap out. Oh, that went in the tray. Guarantee if you've got a tray there, that's where it's going to land. Just like that. Pull the top bearing cap. Make sure we grab its shims. And if you're just doing a swivel hub, I just keep track of the shims and don't worry about getting all your shims and your preload and everything right. That's all the wiper seals are all back there. Should be right to take this off, so I'll just put you guys down for a second. So normally I wouldn't undo the bottoms if I was, well, if you're just doing a swivel hub rebuild. You leave the bottoms alone because they come loose if you touch them, believe it or not. Right, So drop that piece off, and there's our knuckle. Let's split him off. Keep the bearing out of the dirt. But that's got it all apart. Righto, so it's got the knuckle all off it. There it is there. Yeah, lovely, full of grease. But its major issue is that these studs they're just completely torn out of this housing. So there is no thread left in here to put it back together. Like I said, you could drill it and put helicoils in them, but I don't think it's worth it. It's a temporary repair. Like the housing itself, it's had it. So that's why we've gone ahead and I just went and got a new housing for it. So put it all together with new parts and it'll be right. And they're not super expensive. I think retail that swivel hub's about $600 for a brand new one through Toyota. And yeah, for some reason it must be a bit of a common issue, because I can buy a heap of driver's side second-hand ones for about $70 or $80 through, there's a couple of different places on eBay selling them. Any passenger side ones, they want nearly $500 second-hand for it. So, and it's $600 for a brand new one, so might as well just buy a brand new one. And then you know you're not buying someone else's issues. Just knock that new axle seal in. Said this a couple of times. Seal installation tool. If you're going to do this any times, buy one of these. It's just it's the greatest thing ever. Yeah. This it's from Sydney Tools. I think I bought this kit. Yeah. Wasn't here, and it's just saves you so much time and frustration, because I've destroyed my fair share of axle seals trying to put them in without an installation tool. Alright, so got the old hub off there, got the new hub sitting here ready to go, 4 brand new studs in it. I Loctited them in. Just for reference, I Loctited these ones in like I said about 5 years ago, and they were good for a long time. It's only that it came loose again doing Jeep Jamboree, and we tightened them up. I tightened them back up over there. By the time I found they were loose, I was already missing a stud, so I tightened up the 3 that remained. And I actually been driving this to work until a couple of days ago, when the third one was completely gone, and the steering went funny, and realised that actually these 2 had dropped out. So it did leave me on the side of the road. I did need to find them. I luckily found them in the gravel not far from where I pulled up. Put them back in, got it home, which is only a couple of k's, and yeah, went and bought this hub that same day. So yeah, I stopped driving it as soon as that happened, because I thought it was holding together, but I was wrong. So luckily it didn't feel right, so I was going very steady, trying to limp it home. But yeah, it pays. If something doesn't feel right in your car that you drive all the time, have a look, see what it is. In my case, it was the old steering knuckles falling to pieces. So anyway, we'll start installing this new one. Like I said, I've got to clean all the bottom arm up there, and I'll slip this back together and try and find some shims and shim it up properly so it gets the right preload on those bearings and gets the axle back in the center. That's an important one to actually check, which I don't think anyone ever does. But there is a tool and a way to work it out so that your axle's in the middle, and it prevents you eating out axle seals, which is why swivel hubs on all Landcruisers leaks, because the axle seal leaks. Anyway, I'll start putting this back together and bring you back as we go along. are you doing, dog? Hey? What are you doing? Oh, it's a terrible thing. Anyway. Alright, back to the job at hand. Right, there it is, all put back together. Split pins are all back in the joints. Yeah, it's all put back in. A bit of new grease in the wheel bearings. Same point, this all needs to come apart again, shortly. I don't want to say shortly, but there is plans in the future to go to the bigger brakes, because I'm still running the smaller of the 80 series brakes. So stepping up to the calipers from the later Model 1 and the bigger rotors, just to give it a bit more stopping. But yeah, that'll be covered in a later video. So, but as for now, that's the old girl all back together. Ignore the old CV shaft on the ground there. There's a new one in it. All I've got left to do is check the diff oil, because I'm not making that mistake twice. Yeah, and at least that's one thing off the list of repairs from Jamboree. I think this is the only mechanical repair I need to make. The rest is going to be cosmetic. So anyway, I can check my oil, I can put my wheel back on, and yeah, and I'm back in a car again, which is good. Righto, so it's got the front end all back together. Yeah, oils are all checked, it's all good to go. We've packed that hub with grease. It's that whole new hub's assembled and on there. It's got a new road safe CV shaft and axle in it, or CV joint and axle. Yeah, and the whole lot's back together, wheels on, tightened it up by hand, which is the proper way to do it. Even if you don't use a torque wrench, you don't have to torque your wheels. If you're doing them uptight, they're tight. Yeah, never trust an impact gun. It's just a pretty straightforward one on that. So, but yeah, that's one thing ticked off the list. And yeah, now the next big things is all cosmetic. So got to get a bit of time where I can be without the car for a week or so I can pull the tray off and fix it and try and fix the back of that cab. But you'll see that here. So yeah, if you want to see how it goes and see us get back into the dual cab, which is still here, hasn't gone anywhere. So yeah, I've got to get back into that soon, but it's knocking a few things off the list on the car I drive every day, so it's a little bit more important. So yes, anyway, but yeah, if you like the video, subscribe, yeah, like it, share it with your friends. At the time of making this video, I'm still not quite to the 1,000 subscribers, which would be pretty awesome to see the 1,000. So I said, if you haven't subscribed, please do, just to help me get over that point. But anyway, but yeah, I guess we'll see you in the next one.